Good. So we are being live streamed now.
Perfect.
I think that's how I should say it.
So you're recording. Sounds good. So what I'll do is I'll share the slides. Just bear with me, please. Sorry, just bear with me because it's not letting me share. Okay, I got it now. Perfect. Do let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, you can see that.
Perfect. I'm just going to move this to the left. Perfect. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all. Thank you for attending our masterclass in personal branding. My name is Sonia Silva, and for those of you that don't know me, I've been participating in a couple of initiatives with One Africa Forum, and this is the second time that we're doing something of this dimension. So today we're going to talk about personal branding. Personal branding is such a hot topic, which often people question or ask me, why is this so relevant? Why is this so important? Or what does that mean to me in my career, in my entrepreneurship journey? Now, today, I'm going to walk you through a couple of key concepts. I'll give you a couple of tips on how you can define your brand, how you can go about it. And then I would love for this session to be as interactive as possible. So the agenda, like I mentioned, there'll be introduction, the key concepts. I'll explain what I mean about creating your own commodity, which is your brand. I'll give you helpful tips, and we'll reserve some time for some Q&As. And do not shy away and ask me as many questions as you can. I have a vast experience in my current profession, and I'm happy to share my current journey and how I embedded my personal brand into my career. So without further ado, I'm just going to move this quickly. So who I am Sonia Silva. I am a director at Standard Chartered Bank here in New York. I've been in banking for over 15 years. I am originally from Portugal and Guinea-Bissau. I usually call myself a citizen of the world. And I say that because of my cultural heritage, because of the countries that I lived in, because of the experiences that I shared with different people that I encountered in my personal and professional life. And I'm also the founder and director of For Women by Women, which is an educational platform. We usually provide masterclasses, mentorship, and we also have a segment that is dear to my heart, which is for women to share their stories, right? It could be stories of accomplishment, could be stories of I overcame an issue or issues in my life. So those are very personable stories, and we call them untold stories. In a nutshell, that is me, and I don't want to bore you with my extensive CV. And I want to pause here just to give you time to read that particular quote that I put there. It says, if you don't form or shape your personal brand, it will be done by others. Throughout our masterclass, you will understand what I mean by that. So I'll pause here. Before we go into concepts, I would like to know if anyone have any questions so far. Okay. Now, I would like to ask the brave person in the room, what is your understanding of personal brand? Would you like to have a go? And there's no right or wrong answer, right? I just want to know if anyone would like to go and to have a go, rather, in defining personal brand. Prince, I'll pick on you if no one speaks.
Personal brand. I think it's I don't know now what word to use, but I think it's the way you should I use a personality you create for yourself or others, relate with you, the way people see you, right? And the way you have made people to see you and work with you or carry along with you. I think that's it.
Brilliant. I think you are spot on. So personal brand, and do give me a shout if you can't see the screens, because I'll be moving things around. So if you can't see the screen, let me know. So what is personal brand, right? So personal brand, it is your reputation, right? And Prince alluded to that. It's what people perceive you as. Is what you do, the way you do it is what's going to form the opinion of people, the opinion people have of you, rather, right? And I normally summarize personal brand as a couple of things, and I wrote it here, is your reputation, is how people perceive you, and is what you want people to know you for or know you as, right? I'll give you a very concrete example of what happened this morning. The lady, I think Wendy, that was in the waiting room for minutes, or I don't know how many minutes, but she was in the waiting room. Now, Wendy, having been waiting for a couple of minutes, she might form an opinion of Prince based on that, because Prince or the One Forum, right? One Africa Forum, because someone was taking a while to let her in, right? What does that mean? Was Prince wrong in letting her waiting? No, Prince might have been busy with something. Prince might have been busy letting other people in. Prince might be having technical difficulties, but nevertheless, Wendy wouldn't know that, right? So Wendy would have formed her opinion of this platform taking a while to let her into the group, right? So what I mean is that in everything we do, the way we carry ourselves, the way we look, are all factors that are contributing to the formation of our personal brand, right? So ultimately, you have to be very aware of your brand, how you're being perceived, and the impact of your behavior, what you say, how you say it in the people that are coming, that are encountering or having encounters with you. Okay, I'm going to pause here. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts in the first definition of the concept of personal brand?
Hi, Sonia. Could I ask a question there?
Of course.
Exactly on that, how me waiting there, and I had an experience this week, and it's been on my mind exactly because of brand, as you're speaking. So I'm very active in the homeschooling community. I engage with our local government and now with the other provinces, because I've been appointed as national chair of the Homeschooling Association.
Nice.
And having gone to another province, which is very close to our national office, so it's Gauteng. I was in that JLC, which is the Joint Liaison Committee between government and the homeschooling community and our association. And listening to it was the launch. And listening to the speaker and the assistant and everything, and she stressed, it's the launch, people, let's not get into the details. And I didn't have a point where I wanted to raise my voice for anything. There was 29 people there, 3 government and the rest of us. And I thought to myself, did I need to make a statement there? And I thought about the only statement I wanted to make was something she wants to raise at future meetings. Now, to me, it was, don't raise something if somebody said we're not going to discuss it now. But do you make a statement to get yourself known in that situation, or do you respect what is happening? Right. How will the brand, your personal brand, be perceived in that way?
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic question. So you need to find a balance, right? I don't know how many times have you encountered the same people that you saw at that time. Irrespective of that, you must be known for something, right? People must know Wendy in a particular capacity. To me, you always don't lose track of what your end goal was when you were attending that event, right? If you want to make your points across, if you want to bring a topic to the agenda, I think you need to find a way of doing that, in a way that is respectful, in a way that it does not change the ultimate goal of that meeting that is taking place. Once I go into a couple of slides, you'll see what I mean by that and how I, in my personal professional journey, I've done that, right? I think if that's okay with you, I'll just pause it for a second and then we'll revisit this and then we can have the conversation about it. Is that okay?
That's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, no problem at all. And thank you for the question. Let me just make a quick note before I forget that one. Right. Okay. So you must be thinking, how do I define my personal brand? Right. If you remember, I said, if you don't define it, someone will define it for you. So you have to take control of putting out the narrative of who you are. So how do you define that? You have to do a couple of self-assessments. And there's a methodology that I call SWOT analysis. And I think most of you must have, come across that. But what SWOT analysis means is that it's strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, and threats. And I'll explain that in a second. But in the quest or journey to define my personal brand, I have to think about, what do I stand for, right? What are my values? What do I want people to see when Sonia is in a room, when Sonia is in a meeting, when Sonia is speaking? What is it that I want people to walk away with? And ultimately, values for me is a key component of defining your brand. What makes you different? What makes you different to other people? What makes me different to Prince or Wendy or Afiwe? Anyone that is in this particular masterclass, what makes me different to someone else that is in the room, someone else that is in this platform, for example, right? And ultimately, what do you want people to say about you when you are not in the room? In essence, who can expand your brand when you're not around? Who can talk about you with confidence, with trust, right? Without you being present. And who are those people? I'll explain in a second, but there's quite a few people that can carry that brand for you on your behalf. What I mean by the SWOT analysis, and I'll pause, does anyone know or anyone used the methodology, the SWOT analysis methodology before?
Yes, I've used it before.
Okay. Do you want to give me, so if we think about the strengths, what would you say a couple of your strengths are?
Gosh, can't even think of a
I'm sure you must have a lot.
I was asked, feels like a decade ago, who am I outside of what I do for my family and my children? And I'm still trying to figure that out.
Right.
I'm a committed parent.
Yeah.
Obsessive researcher for my kids. Very obsessive.
Okay.
So I think my obsession is my strength because it sees me through a lot.
Right. Okay.
Focus.
That's good. Okay. I'm just going to use you as our case studies. So obsessed, focused. Yeah.
Passionate.
Okay. Passionate. Perfect. And what would you say a weakness? And I don't like the word weakness, something that you want to improve or something that you're working towards, something new that you want to learn. What would you say the one thing that, for example, that you're like, you know what, I really need to work on this?
My weakness is my aversion for being in the public eye. I have an exceptionally strong aversion for being in the public eye. And I'm finding it, I've been forced to go into the public eye and I absolutely detest it.
Okay. Are you okay with public speaking?
When I'm forced to.
Okay. So using the words, okay. So you have an aversion. Wow. Okay. Okay.
What do they call it? Performance anxiety.
Interesting. Okay. And what would you say your threat is? The one thing that, I don't know, not necessarily a negative, the one thing that might condition your personal brand, that might condition how people see you.
I'm concerned that often I'm very strong in my beliefs. I'm concerned that it could come across as inflexible.
Okay.
So I'm very aware of it.
Okay. Is that something that that you're working on?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So that is also a
And
part of your development. Okay.
Yeah, so to pause myself, just to actually listen to the other side and, critically evaluate it.
What would be your opportunity then?
Many opportunities in the sphere that I am because I'm in education, because I'm very passionate about what I want for my youngest, particularly. My eldest is now busy with A levels.
Nice.
And I suppose the success of having worked with her through that, is also my weakness, because it can skew my perception of an alternative that could actually be better. Because my children, as much as they are the same, they are extremely different.
They're unique. In their own ways, right?
Exceptionally very unique.
Right. Okay.
Give me a very hard time. So yeah.
Interesting.
Being very aware of that.
Couple of things. And thank you so much for, I put you in the spot and you responded in a very positive way in having this conversation with me and sharing a little bit about your personal views or stance in different things. And we already know through this conversation that you have kids. We already know that you are in education. We already know that you are someone that is good at communicating, despite believing that you don't like it, right? You use the word when I'm forced, right? Again, there is a limiting belief, a self-limiting belief there that makes you think that I don't like this. I'll do it just because they're forcing me to do it. What I'm taking from this conversation is that you are a great communicator. You are assertive. You are succinct. And you are someone that is into empowering others, including your kids. That's what I took away from this 2-second conversation. Right? And this is the exercise that you need to do to define the narrative, right? Through your stories, this is how you say, this is what my brand is. How painful was this exercise for you?
I'm grinding my teeth.
So for me, it was an easy exercise. For you, you expose yourself, right? You expose yourself.
I think you hit on the nail on the head as to my aversion, exposing myself.
Correct. Yeah. But you realize that it's not an aversion, though.
No, I don't.
It's a notion of an aversion, right? It's not an aversion. You believe you are thinking it's to be, because guess what? Surprise, surprise, we all have an aversion of public speaking. We all have a fear of public speaking. We just develop techniques to deal with that, right? If I tell you that I'm shy, most people will say, no, you're not, right? Why? Because it's how I perceive myself, how I conduct myself, how I come across. But meanwhile, if I don't really know someone, if I'm not comfortable, my sense of like my shyness pops up. If I tell you I am Portuguese is my first language, English is my second or probably third, you think, really? But you're speaking confidently. But I'll be like, yeah, I had to develop that. for a long period of time, I thought that I needed to change my accent. I thought that my Portuguese accent was, stronger than the English one. But guess what? Now I struggle to speak straight Portuguese because I'm mixing both of them. I say this to say what? All of my struggles, all of my fears helped me define my personal brand. I'll say that again. My struggles, my fears, all of that has helped me define my personal brand. I am known for some things, which I'll share in a second in one of the slides, what my brand is, what my commodity is, right? I'll pause here. I don't want you to be the center of attention, but I wanted to prove a point that you don't have an aversion. It's a notion, it's a thought, it's a belief that you have an aversion. Because when I said, can I have a volunteer? Who volunteered? The person that has an aversion, right? The person that, I don't like that, I'm forced. I don't think Princess forced you, and I don't think I forced you, right? So we just defined your brand, and it wasn't painful. It was painful for you, maybe to, let me bring this out, but it wasn't. It wasn't. So to kick it off, anyone else wants to? Anyone else?
Thank you. That was amazing.
No problem at all. Anyone wants to have a go? Any thoughts about the exercise that we just did with Wendy? Okay. See, Wendy, you're still the winner. Okay.
I'm struck.
I'm telling you, it's powerful. It's powerful. And there is power in sharing, right? Your vulnerability will help someone else. Brand promise is something that I'm big on. And what does the brand promise mean? When you think about big brands such as, I don't know, Starbucks, when you think about Apple, when you think about Nike, these are all established and huge brands, right? When you purchase their products, there is an expectation that they will be good. There's an expectation that your coffee from Starbucks will be amazing. We can debate that because some people don't like Starbucks, but I do. There's an expectation that their product will be amazing. If they're not, what's going to happen? You will change your views, perception of that coffee and that brand. When Nike pops up with the new trainers and they look a bit weird, you probably say, oh my God, I'm not going to get these ones. Their sales might go down. So that is the impact on the bad perception people have on that brand. And we're talking about big companies. Now, apply that concept to your personal brand. If you make a promise, let's just pick me as an example. I run a couple of teams at work. And let's say I gave a project to someone. That someone, A, is not keeping me up to date on the progress of the project, or they are keeping me up to date, but the delivery is poor or mediocre. They delivered the project on time, but they haven't met the goals, or they thought they did, but they haven't. What's going to happen? I will judge them, right? Because I'm their manager, I'm their leader. I will review their performance. I will make an opinion of their performance based on their delivery. Pick that concept and bring it back to you as a person. Your personal brand gets affected by your delivery. If you promise to do something, do it. If you say you're going to be somewhere a particular time, be there on time. In fact, be there 5 minutes before time. I was speaking to Prince earlier, and I told him that, or last night, and I said, I'll see you in an hour. And then I said to him, 10 minutes before joining, I will see you in 5. What did I do? I was keeping him abreast on what I was up to, right? Why? Because I have a commitment. I have committed myself to deliver a masterclass on his platform, right? All of that is for me, my brand, right? If I was going to be late, if I totally forgot about the masterclass, Prince would have formed a bad impression of me. Meanwhile, supposedly, I'm a I'm a successful person. But that success would have been tainted and crashed based on not delivering, not being on time, or not staying committed to what I agreed with Prince. And I summarize that to say, brand promise just means you need to learn to manage expectations of the people that you have a commitment with. You need to perform and deliver results. And ultimately, you need to manage your reputation. So if you take it back to how we defined personal brand, we said it's a reputation. So your reputation, you need to constantly manage it and stay up to date to who you promise to be. That's what big brands do. And that's what you should do as someone that is carrying a brand, your own brand, right? I'll pause here for any questions, thoughts, or reflections before we move on. Anything from anyone? Remember, we need to make this interactive.
All right. Hi, Sonia. It's
Hi.
Prince. So you're talking about personal branding, and you give example of your team, and how you assess them. That's correct. So now I want to pick from that angle.
Mm-hmm.
How do you ensure that your team, all right, reflects your brand? All right,
That's your question, right? That is key. And I'm going to use For Women by Women, my company, as an example. When I started and I had the vision, I came up with the idea of setting up this initiative that it became a company to empower women through education. When I thought about it, I asked a couple of friends and family, what do you think about it? I had to, and I wanted to get their opinion because I wanted to see if it was something that was palpable and something that people would buy into. So a lot of them were like, wow, this is amazing. This is great. Da, 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 da. I asked a couple of people to join me in that journey, and they did. These were people that were and are, they're still my friends. But guess what? They didn't buy into my vision. What they bought into was the idea of being a part of a brand like For Women by Women. Nothing wrong with them. They are amazing people, amazing professionals. But guess what? They didn't buy into the vision. They weren't ready to commit to the vision like I was. They weren't ready to have sleepless nights. They weren't ready to sleep at 1 or 2 a.m., wake up at 6 or 7 a.m. They weren't ready to double hat and have a job. I have a profession where I'm extremely successful in. But then I set this up. So I'm double hatting. I have 2 jobs in essence. So when you have people in an initiative, in a platform, in a company, you need to make sure that you assess and reassess their commitment to that initiative. Because ideas can be they can be amazing. People can be, oh my God, I so identify with this, but they're not ready to put in the work. So it's for you to make sure that you change your team or you influence the people that are in your initiative, in your team, to buy into what you're doing. So for me, my personal example, I am still friends with the 3 people that were part of the initiative when it started, but they're no longer part of it because they did a self-assessment and realized that I can't do this. This is not for me. It's nothing to do with them being busy or not. It's just they weren't ready for the level of commitment that it was required to be in the platform. Fast forward, it's been a year and 6 months. The platform, the initiative, the company, we are now very established. And guess what? They are left behind. Not because they're not good people, not because their brands are not strong. They all have a brand. But that brand didn't make sense to be a part of For Women by Women because I am defined by a couple of things, and you'll see that in a second in my brand, and they weren't part of that boat. I hope that helps, but you have to be very open and honest with yourself and with the people that are part of your journey. There's no point carrying something just because you want numbers in your firm. Sometimes you have to be willing to do the work by yourself, get it to a standard, and then start hiring people, right? Start getting volunteers. But you need to make that, you need to do that exercise for sure. Does that help, Chris?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. And I'm happy to talk to you offline if you want to, and I can give you a couple of tips on you need to write down a couple of things and how you're going to address that, how you're going to have that very difficult conversation with the people in question. Because if there's a friendship, for example, which was my case, it can be difficult, right? To say to someone, hey, you're not delivering as a member of For Women by Women, but we are great friends. It's a difficult thing to do, but you have to do it if you want your platform, your company, your initiative to succeed. Okay. Okay. Any other questions or thoughts from anyone? Okay, I'm going to reduce this so that you guys can see this properly. Okay, now I'm bringing to you the concept of creating your own commodity. What does that mean? It's your brand. And that brand is called you. As simple as that. Treat your personal brand in the same vein that a big brand will treat their brands. You know, have a strategy, have a board of advisors, personal board of advisors that would be composed of people that will be open and honest with you, people that will help you with the research. We have someone here, which is Wendy. She's in education, and I don't know if anyone else is in the educational sphere, but use the people around you to perform research in how you will define your brand, right? For me, when you think about Sonia, when you think about For Women by Women, we are the same. Why? Visually, we're actually the same. I'm defined by a couple of colors. I don't know if you notice. Does anyone notice what are the colors that I'm defined by? It's not that difficult.
Yes, I noticed. Earthy and peachy pink.
And that has literally been my brand since I've known myself. Of course, you add in and remove colors in your palettes, right? But this has been me, very serene. It's always, there are times that I'll be quite loud and do color blocks, but hey, I love the white and the peach, the kind of pink, not too strong, but these are the colors that define me. Personal brand is not just about your image, but image certainly plays a huge part. I am known to always be dressed up, or if I'm hosting certain events, I'll be slightly dressed down, right? But I'll have certain things in me that will still show that image of someone that she's very sure of herself, right? So there is no distinction between For Women by Women and Sonia. If you look at the font, right? The type of font is the same. If you look at, I don't know, that color that we mentioned is the same. The hair is usually straight, or is usually this, right? That's always Sonia. And how did I define this? I went through the exercise that I mentioned, right? I had to do a SWOT analysis. I had to see, Sonia, what are you good at? What is it that you're really good at? That people always commend you, or they always say, this is amazing, well done, this is Sonia. And I made that list. And I made the list of things that I wasn't as good at, or that I felt that I needed to improve on, because we always have things to improve on, things that we need to work on. I made that list. I was like, I'll give you an example. Excel. I hate Excel. I can work with Excel, right? I know how to work with Excel, but I don't like it, like nada. In my team, I surround myself with people that are good with Excel. Why? Because that way I can focus on the things that I'm good at, the things that are defining me, right? Which is what? Leadership, right? She's always strong. She's assertive. She's great at communicating. That's what I focus on. If I'm not good at data, or if I don't like data, I'll get the data from someone else and I'll give them the space to present about the data. So what's going to come out of that? Wow, what a great leader. She brought someone in to give them exposure, right? Those are the things that define me as someone that is in the corporate world and someone that has a company called For Women by Women. There's no distinction of how I carry myself on a personal level versus my corporate world and my entrepreneur hat. Apologies, right? So there's no way I'll speak to Prince and he'll say, Sonia, this is my image of Sonia, this is my perception of Sonia. And I'm going to speak to Wendy or any other person, and they'll form a completely different opinion of me. They might have nuances based on our interactions, but my brand will always be the same. So the reason why I put this slide is because I want everyone to do the same exercise. Pick a blank piece of paper and write it down. What is it that my friends say about me? What is it that my parents, my family say about me? In 3 words, like just this evening or tomorrow. Ask the people around you. When you think about me, what are the 3 words that come to your mind? Or in 3 words, how would you define me? Do that exercise. And then you'll be surprised, good or bad, but you'll be surprised, right? And after you do that, also think about what is it that I always do that people say, Sonia, Wendy, Prince, you're good at, right? Think about that and then write it down. When people are in a room, when you enter the room, what is it that they think about? When you speak, what comes out of it? Is it because you are terrible at communicating, or wow, what a great communicator? Wow, this person really commands the room. This person is great at speaking with youngsters. This person is great at connecting with people. Remember, it's your reputation, it's the perception that people have of you that is based on your actions, right? So for me, the things that stood out in all my interactions, in everyone that I deal with, they always say, wow, Sonia, you're confident and very bold, right? They'll say, oh, she's authentic and she's honest. I have someone who's joining our big group soon, and the person put a meeting in my calendar and said, I really want to catch up with you because I want you to give me a State of the Union feedback on the status of the team. I was like, sure. He said, oh, but I want your honest feedback. I was like, that you will get. Why? Because people know Sonia to be very honest. There is no one that will speak to me and say, I'm not sure. I don't really trust her. I don't really believe what she's saying. Because I've been consistent in the way that I relate and communicate and deal with people quite in honesty, rather, right? And then the last 2 things is they always say, oh, she's strong and she's a fair leader. When you put the 2 together, you're like, how can she strong and fair? Yeah, it is possible that you are very strong. And I think it was when it also said that I think was it around your threats, the people might perceive you to have like very strong values, right? Perception.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. I strive in that. I want people to see me as a strong woman, a strong leader, but at the same token, someone that is removed. We all have biases, right? But as a leader, as a manager, I don't want anyone to finger point and say, oh, she's being biased. So I have to work on that, on being fair and balanced with my team, right? So in essence, that is my ask of you. Get a piece of paper and try to work out what your brand will look like from an image standpoint and from the things that you are known as, what people say about you, the perception that people have of you, and compare it to how you truly are. And then that will start that will be the beginning rather of your narrative. Okay, I'm going to pause here if there's any questions or thoughts, comments from anyone before we move on to the tips. Okay. No comments, no thoughts. I'll leave you with something from this page, which is at the bottom. Remember, you are the head marketeer of a brand called you. Don't give that role to anyone. Do not employ anyone to be the head marketeer of your brand. You are the head marketeer. You can have other marketeers help you work on your brand, but you have to work on that brand yourself, because ultimately you will impact how people perceive you, and often it might not be in line with how and who you truly are. So control that narrative. Last but not least, I want to leave you with a couple of tips, right? And I think I've been speaking about it throughout the presentation, but I wanted to walk away with it. First and foremost, define what your personal mission statement is. And I mentioned, use the SWOT analysis methodology. That is a good starting point. It's not the only way to do it, but it's a good starting point. I mentioned as well, use your friends and family to help you define that narrative, but find a way to write down what your personal mission statement is. And then that will start help you define and build on what your personal brand is. One thing that I always say, build a bank of stories that has a link to what you enjoy doing and that you do well. You don't want to be known by someone that's grumpy and you're doing something just because of the sake of it. And I'll pick on Wendy again. She said, "Oh, forced to do." I could be wrong, but based on the interaction, you're good at it. You just probably don't see it as something that you like for whatever reason. And I'm not a psychologist, but ultimately, you're good at it. So if you're good at it, go for it. I don't like public speaking. Put yourself in a position where you will do public speaking to the point that you enjoy it. That is the opportunity to change a threat to become your strength. We all have a brand. We just don't do the exercise of figuring out that it is a strength that you can carry with you. Often you will be so good at something, but it won't be that obvious to you. Others will point it out to you, and then you'll be like, no, I'm not. Until you then take the time to work on it. Last but not least, I would say learn to seize the opportunity. And what I mean by that, I moved to the US 2.5 years ago, moved to New York 2.5 years ago. And that was because I was working in London. That's where I was based for 18 years. And my bosses at the time said, "Oh, Sonia, would you fancy going to New York?" I was like, "Sure, to do what?" There was no role defined. I was known as a fixer. I was known as someone that could bring processes, governance, and lead and build teams. There was a team that was, going through some challenges. So they just knew that there was someone that would be able to fix it. I was the Olivia Pope in my area. So I took on the challenge. So I seized the opportunity. It didn't come in a nice package. It didn't come beautiful. It didn't come like, oh my God, this is my next big thing, my next big promotion. It came very uncertain. Hey, there's a role, not defined, but there's an opportunity. So I seized the opportunity. There's a saying, I don't know if you are Christians, but blessings do come. So you need to be able to be open to receive those blessings. And often we are the ones that block them because we expect them to come in a particular shape or form. So my advice to you, learn to identify, to seize a moment that will catapult you to the next level or the next thing or the big thing, right? Don't just expect it to be, in the perfect package as often we want it to be. And also, I want to demystify the idea of the perfect time, the perfect scenario. That doesn't exist. You make it. You start with what you have. You start small, you scale up. But just remember that it is all down to you. You command that. It is in your hands. to do that, right? And whatever you do, remember, it's your reputation. Therefore, I'll leave you with, make sure that you surround yourself with strong board of advisors, right? People that will be expanding on your personal brand on your behalf, right? To give you context, corporate world, it will be your sponsors, your mentors, the people that are talking about you, putting you up for promotions when you're not in the room. Likewise, on your personal standpoint, on your entrepreneurship journey, same thing. Pick people that will carry your brand, pick people that will try your products, right? And they'll give you feedback. This is good. This is not so good. This is probably what you need to improve on. All of that, it's a must-do exercise. So I'll leave you with a big thank you for taking the opportunity to ask questions and share your thoughts. And the final thing that I would say, please do that exercise. And I'm happy to take on questions, or you can reach me on my LinkedIn, or you can reach me on For Women by Women platform, and I can share my time with you and my experience, because that's the only thing that I can give you. I'm here because of my fears, and I have to tap into that inner self and my superpowers, and here I am. So I'll pause here, and I thank you for your time, and then we can go into Q&A.
Me again. That was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. It was incredible. I cannot even begin to tell you how dumbstruck I am and enlightened I feel after all that you've just said. And as you were talking, I was just thinking of my eldest daughter. She's 18 years old. She's well known for being great at maths and helping people with maths, helping other students, etc., etc. To the point that she gets calls from kids she doesn't know. I heard about you. Can you help me, please?
She has a brand.
I was thinking the same thing as you're talking, and she wants to study theoretical and experimental physics.
Wow.
So she needs to do a double maths and physics major. Because we're in South Africa and our homeschool, obviously she's done Cambridge, she's finishing her A-levels now, self-taught. And so we've had to do, for next year, you're going to do the online UK school for a year while she studies German, because she's going to study, we figured out that she can study there for free.
Wow.
So she's learning that now, her, I think, 5th or 6th language, I lose track.
Amazing.
But she's also been tutored by a guy from the university, which was identified at, I think, 12 as being supposedly exceptional at maths. And he wants to co-research a paper with her next year. And as you're talking, I'm thinking back, everybody's always contacting her about maths. And I even got a call from a mom the other day to say that her daughter's now gone on to study biomedical engineer thanks to my daughter, because the school said she was failing at maths. She must drop to maths literacy. My daughter tutored her. She's gone on to do advanced maths. And now she's going to probably co-research. And then, it's all part of her brand. As I'm listening to you, I'm thinking, this is her brand. This is who she is. And even starting, it's been for years and going forward to, I would say, endorse that brand, grow us, especially because of the field she wants to go in as a female person of color wanting to go into theoretical physics. I can tell you there is zero funding,
right?
Shockingly. You'd think that STEM fields, people of color, developing country, you could find it. No.
And that's such a big field at the moment. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it's the field of the present and the future,
right?
Because obviously she'll do quantum studies too. She's already started that. But I was just thinking, this is really her brand, and I'm going to get this recording and let her watch it.
Oh, thank you.
And build that. Because,
and help her, right? Help her.
Yeah.
Like maybe, again, you can do the exercise together. The two of you can define your respective brands by having that conversation. You are literally, as you're listening to me, and I'm so, I'm grateful that you all attended the session, but you're going to walk away with something, which is, I can help my daughter figure out what her brand is. Because you already figured that out, but it could be more to it, right?
Yeah, because we had the conversation. She was having an identity crisis. And I was saying to her, you're more than your maths. I mean, think about what you have done. You have not just taught maths, you have taught maths to struggling children, and they've gone away and been successful to the point of. So your ability is really about seeing their struggle, identifying it, and then being able to translate it back to them in a way that they get. And I said, if it was just about the maths, their teacher could have done it.
Right. Right. And she's being generous with her time and knowledge, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
That is amazing. I am so blessed. Thank you. This is amazing.
So, thank you.
No,
it's really been amazing.
I believe in the power of sharing, right? And that's what I do. I share my experiences, I share my knowledge, and nothing beats that. And I think you touched on something that is so important, which is diversity, which often is an element of everything that we do. We want to make sure that this reaches more people, right? As many people as possible. We want to make sure that we are not just invited to a party. We want to make sure that we are invited to dance. Ultimately, that is diversity, right? You can invite me to be a part of this beautiful and amazing party, but if you don't ask me to dance, how inclusive are you being with me, right? That's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So does anyone has any other question? I mean, thank you so much, Sonia. Thank you.
No problem.
This is beautiful.
Oh, I have one other question. Sorry, Sonia, I made a note.
Sure.
What if you make a mistake with your brand? And I mean, surely it happens.
Yeah,
it
does happen. But you revamp it.
How do you recover? Or somebody on your team making a bad statement or something like that.
Yeah, no, that's a huge and pertinent question, right? There's always an opportunity to change, to amend, to revamp. I'll give you an example. With my brand, I just revamped the image of For Women by Women. I had a different logo. That one is nice and simple. When it comes to the corporate world, for example, and one of my team members made a mistake, or I rated them, for example, I rated them medium, right? A medium performer, beginning of the year. They have almost like 6 months until the next review to show me that they have improved. How did they do that? They took on more projects. They took on the feedback that I gave them. Another example, a typical thing, communication is a huge deal and is a huge part of our personal brand, right? How you speak, like I mentioned before. There's a couple of people in my team that they struggle with that, with communication. So at the beginning of the year, I said, hey, these are the things that I think you need to improve on. Your network, you need to network more. You need to be known by other stakeholders. Second piece, I wanted to learn to communicate, right? So I helped them define those objectives because I gave them the feedback. What did they do? Within the following 6 months, they were in events that would allow them to speak. So once they did that, I was able to say, oh, okay, they improved on this, but there's still room for improvement. And the other thing that I did, for example, was I told them to put together some slides, right? They put together some slides on a topic of their choice, and they presented it to myself and the team. Again, they're putting themselves in very uncomfortable positions because they want to learn. So to answer your question, you can, one, revamp your brand. Big brands do it all the time, right? They might keep like their symbols and stuff, but they are rebranding themselves constantly, either with the new product or tone or the color changes. We have the seasonal changes in these big brands. For our personal brand, same thing. Think about it in the same vein. I think I mentioned it's a reputation management. constantly review, what does my brand looks like? Final example that I give, right now, we are all working from home, most of us. And our management team wants us to go back to work. So a lot of people, oh, but I've been working for almost 2 years and I can deliver and I'm comfortable. They are not, they're not thinking about the impact of not going in to the office. You're allowing people to think that you don't want to go, whilst your argument could be, oh, but I've been working fine at home and I'm delivering, so why should I go? But because you're not going, someone else is forming the opinion that you're not going because you're too comfortable and you don't want to come in, right? So there's always an opportunity to review, revise, and change that perception and that reputation. So I would say continue to treat it as a reputation management, right? You look at it every 3 months, every 6 months, however, whatever time you have and however you want to drive it, but it's a continuous thing. I hope that helps.
Yes, thank you very much.
No problem, my pleasure. Anyone else? Does anyone else have a, and feel free to drop me a direct notes or personal notes if you want to, and I can have one-on-ones, because it's not easy to put yourself out here and, you know, the public speaking. Over to you, Prince.
All right. Thank you very much. So I believe no one has any question now. I just want to say
We can't hear you. You're on mute.
there's a question in the chat. Is it okay to share your ideas with people or your dreams?
Yeah, not everyone. And this is one of the things that your personal board of advisors, it's good for, right? Not share, don't share with everyone, but share with the people that you truly trust, people that you think they'll be honest with you, people that they're not just going to say, oh, this is amazing, or people that will steal the idea from you, right? For me, there were instances that I had to learn to let it go because I was pretty hurt by how some people took some of my ideas and presented it as theirs. But ultimately, I had to let it go, right? And I learned from that I shouldn't tell my ideas to everyone until it's materialized. So my response is choose the people that you can share with, because you still need some research on your product, on your idea, or whatever the case may be, but choose wisely on your personal board of advisors. I hope that helps, Barbara.
All right. Thank you very much, Barbara. And thank you, Sonia. I don't know if anyone has any question. We wanted to keep this session to an hour, but if you have any question, please, we're happy to take that now and then we can just attend to them. So thank you very much, Wendy. You've been very active. Thank you, Zineb, Zizi, Paul, and Barbara. So I think Zineb, Wendy deserves a round of applause. So Wendy, you get that from me. Well done.
Thank you, Prince.
For that very engaging session. So yes, we'll be running up the class now. Next week, what are we going to learn? What are we doing next week?
You choose, darling. You have a list. You choose which one you want to focus on. I'm happy to do it.
Next week, how about we do the imposter syndrome next week?
Oh, that's a big one.
It does follow the personal branding as well, so that you don't go ahead and start hiding yourself. So I think, so next week, guys, let's look forward to the imposter syndrome.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I think that's it follows perfectly to personal branding, right?
Does.
I think we can do that in that order. So yes, so guys, I'll see you all next week, and please don't be selfish with this information, right? Share it with your friends, family. Give them the link to sign up, to register and sign up. All right. So let's have a full class and more people as well. And so please, for Barbara and Zineb, encourage your teammates to join in next week. All right. So yeah, just to put it out there, Barbara is our coordinator from Ghana and Zineb is our coordinator from Morocco. So yes, guys, encourage your team to be a part of this next week. I mean, you have seen and you have learned as well. And so you should be speaking from an angle of knowledge and, and confidence. So yeah, so let's do that next week. Thank you very much again. Yeah, thank you. So
thanks everyone, and I appreciate your questions, your comments. Wendy, you've been a huge participant, and I think you were our case scenario that we used, and it was brilliant. I really appreciate you, and thank you for being vulnerable and sharing so much. And I think he helped a lot with the exercise that we conducted. It was a pleasure talking to you. Prince, thank you for the opportunity. No problem at all. And again, Prince, feel free to share my details. People can reach out if more questions comes up. All right?
Absolutely. All right.
No Have problem. A blessed day. Thanks, everyone.
Bye. If you want to reach out to Sonia, on Instagram, she's for women by women, _women by women. So just find her there. And you can always reach her personally. Otherwise, you can reach out to me and I'll just share her profile link